Let me tell you a story, an interesting story about a gaming company. Once upon a time, that company was loved, praised, and worshipped from people all over the world. For many of us, Blizzard's games were an essential part of our childhoods and even adulthood. Hordes of American neckbeards were ready to rally any store where they could find their favorite game made was being sold on its release. However, now Blizzard Entertainment is rivaling Electronic Arts and Ubisoft for the most hated AAA cash-grabbing game developer. A lot has happened during this time, dozen remarkable stories ranging from great to awful. We'll take a closer look at this company's historical events and form our own opinion. We'll need to answer some key questions though, that shall guide us on this path. How was the company created? What led to Blizzard's major success? Why was the company loved and praised so much? How and why was its reputation ruined afterwards? What happened to Blizzard Entertainment?
Why Uther ever vouched for you is beyond me. You've stripped him of his honor by casting yours to the winds. You deserve a gruesome death, boy.
Blizzard's journey throughout its inception is surrounded by synchronicities, strange events, and weird circumstances. From the first chat between Alan Adam and Mike Morhaime, then Adam meeting Bravik and the eventual creation of Blizzard North, to then StarCraft stuff initial showing, costing a reboot, and many, many more.
Hell, it's about time.
In just a second. This is insane. And here we go.
And they're off.
Marines trying to get back there. Tanks on hold position. Puts up the depot. That's exactly what he needed to do. Uh-oh, but this is so scary. Spreading those Marines. Beautiful spread. And he minimizes damage more than I thought he even would.
Players to commit. Kiwikaki's been loading on both sides. Here it goes.
Oh, here we don't go. Here we go now for sure.
There's the
look at the
all
fungals on
the
everything.
Field.
Oh, is he going to jump in there though? No, the Archon's not jumping in. The mothership just getting a little bit aggressive.
Oh, he got a second one. He
it?
got a second one.
The Archons are not jumping in. Oh,
There they are.
goes
There they are.
And
1.5 seconds, and then the Archons will come back. Savannah trying to get away with the Colossi.
Splitting the
Are
army.
doing so much damage.
Oh man, everything bunched up right there, and I think Kiwikaki, is he gonna have enough? Is he gonna take out the Broodlords?
There are so few Broodlords left, just a couple left remaining on the field, and
Oh,
then it's
man.
all ground forces.
Kiwikaki's got it!
He's got it! He's got it! He's got it!
I can't
Kiwikaki
believe
takes out the
this.
last Broodlord.
I mean, the BCs have so much help. And he's just pushing, man. He's like, all right, let's do it. Oh my God. Oh my God. Oh my God. Oh my God. But no Archons. Where's his Archons? He needs to get those in there.
He gunned down the Archons before it was time.
And the Void Rays come out. And Archon goes in. Another Archon goes in. Get in there. Oh my God, what are we seeing? Side Storm. This is madness.
Oh my God,
Is he
he's
actually
gonna get all
gonna kill
of
this
those
army? Oh, the BCs are all going down. I can't believe what I just saw. Oh my God.
I have a soft spot in my heart for the StarCraft franchise, as it represents my early glimpse into PC gaming when I was very little. I hope you enjoyed some of the highlights of StarCraft Wings of Liberty. The idea is to introduce and summarize Blizzard's most influential and successful work through these short gameplay segments. I want you to have a fresh visualization of how the games looked when they were released and how their progression manifested on a linear timeline. Hopefully this will help you recall some of your memories of playing Blizzard games. You can use those connections and reference points later when we start dissecting and analyzing the events. Then you can draw your own conclusions. Some things become much clearer with the luxury of time on our side, as our brain has more time to organize and think things through. We are less prone to the emotional states that cloud our judgment and risk making us too biased and affected.
Able to make any use of it with that damage, they just have to retreat.
Jaehong, the enemy Ana, sniping him from the back line. And Jaehong is such an incredible Ana player. Teams have talked about how he's such an offensive threat as well, and you see that. He killed Shadowburn and Rubicon goes down again without ulting.
A couple kills for Arhan already, as South Korea tries to defend the point once again. Eska will drop the Blizzard, and Reds is on his own. He will join his team in the afterlife, though, as South Korea cleans up the rest of this fight. There goes Anik.
This was a brief sample of Blizzard's games in the last 30 years. It's time for the fun and more in-depth part of the video. Stay tuned.
Oh, at last.
This plan provides an overview of Blizzard Entertainment's game release timeline combined with crucial events and key developments. We will explore 4 distinct periods that mark significant structural changes and decisions shaping the company's future direction, leading to the current state of Blizzard Entertainment. The first era, called the Golden Age. During this period, Blizzard built an impeccable reputation and became synonymous with high-quality PC games. Blizzard was known for the company which had never released a bad game. Second era, or the decline. This era saw Blizzard struggling with internal and external challenges that started to erode its earlier success. The third era, or the Dark Age. It seems that profit had become the only priority. The current era is marked with significant challenges that had affected Blizzard's standing in the industry and among its fans. In conclusion, we will explore each of these periods in detail, focusing on the key factors and circumstances that define them. By understanding the evolution of Blizzard Entertainment, we can gain insight into the pivotal moments that have shaped its journey. Humble beginnings. Blizzard Entertainment was founded in 1991 as Silicon and Synapse by 3 people, Alan Adam, Michael Morheim, and Frank Pierce.
How I met Mike is a crazy, crazy story. Kind of knew each other peripherally from classes we'd had together, but didn't really know each other. I didn't know his name and vice versa. We were sitting in a lab coding and happened to be sitting side by side. And I got up to go get a cup of coffee, ended up bumping into some friends and talking. Well, before I left, I locked my computer using my password. And when I came back, I sat down and I unlocked the computer and continued working. And Mike, this guy sitting next to me I didn't really know, turned to me and he said, "How did you do that?" And I said, "What? You just lock it when you leave, you unlock it when you come back." And he says, "No, while you were gone, it timed out and I locked it using my password. How did you unlock it?" And I said, "What's your password?" And it turned out, by some crazy coincidence, we both were using the same password. And so, to think that Mike and I, if that moment doesn't happen, maybe Mike and I never really meet each other, maybe Blizzard never exists. It's kind of crazy. My whole life, the most fun thing that I know to do is to make and play video games. I tried to recruit basically anybody at UCLA who was really good at comp sci into this harebrained idea that a bunch of kids were going to go start a computer company.
The company's early projects were conversions of existing titles for a variety of home computer systems. But soon after, it started releasing a number of original titles for each following year. firstly focused on the console market. Games such as The Lost Vikings, Rock'n'Roll Racing, and Blackthorn. Blizzard was gaining initial experience with developing and publishing games. Those essential skills would be required later on. A significant event happened a year later for young Silicon and Synapse. Westwood Studios released the enormously influential game Dune 2. Though it wasn't much of a commercial success, this unique strategy game would certainly impact Blizzard's next project, and PC gaming would never be the same. A key note: in the early days, Blizzard faced significant financial difficulties. A 2016 article from PC Gamer provides insights into the challenges the co-founders experienced in paying their employees. Mike Morhaime and Alan Adam, along with cinematics artist Jerry Hall, described how the company often ran on very tight margins, frequently relying on borrowed money to stay afloat. They consistently reinvested any new funds back into the company to hire more talent, which strained their finances further. In the meantime, a key deal was about to take place. Davidson and Associates was an educational software company. At the time, they were very successful and were pretty much dominating the market. They were known chiefly for their Blaster series of educational games, including Math Blaster. Logical for any successful business is to expand, and Blizzard Entertainment was up for grabbing. On February 18th, 1994, Davidson and Associates secured the creator of The Lost Vikings in a stock deal valued $6.75 million. Soon after, an announcement came in March. A few months after its name changed to that we know of today, Blizzard Entertainment. The word entertainment was chosen due to Blizzard's desire to branch out eventually into other forms of media such as movies, books, comics, as well as physical and digital goods, and not simply be a game company. The word Blizzard came from a dictionary search by Allen and was the first word that sounded cool.
Blizzard.
And wasn't copyrighted already. A symbolic read could be that the name change happened during an important time for the company, and it signifies their new direction. Looking back, this will be the year from when someone might argue the huge ripple effects in the gaming industry made by Blizzard Entertainment originate. The first name was meant to be the building blocks of a computer, silicon chips, and the building blocks of a human mind, synapses. But nobody got it, as Morhaime put it. I assume many of you would agree that the original name, Silicon and Synapse, is not the best name representing a gaming company. Even in today, I feel this will be more suited for an entity developing AI or manufacturing computer chips compared to video games. So the direction to change their name was the right one.
This is one of our sort of secrets, right? How to make games that appeal to a casual or mid-core player, but also to a hardcore player. At the time, the prevailing wisdom was you sort of had to pick an audience, and if you tried to make a game for everybody, then you would get nobody. And we rejected that notion. We thought, actually, there are examples, and the simplest, probably two, that we talk about, the canonical examples that we give at Blizzard to help people understand are chess and Go. Go is so simple, you can explain how to play it in 30 seconds. But actually, it's incredibly strategically deep despite its simplicity. And chess is the same thing. Chess only has 6 piece types. You can explain the rules of chess in about 5 minutes to an 8-year-old, and then you can play, and then that 8-year-old could play every day for the rest of their life. Strategic depth does not require complexity, and the holy grail of game design are those rare gems where you find strategically deep games that are still simple. That lets you invite in casual and mid-core players and then graduate them up the sort of, strategically, the strategic curve until they're, hardcore. And so you see that echoing in all of our game designs.
In summer 1994, PC gamers were circulating the demo for Warcraft Orcs vs Humans. The series took the top-down strategy tactics in Dune 2 and added an approachable fantasy presentation. Anyone familiar with Tolkien's tales could find something familiar in the colorful and often humorous characters portrayed in Warcraft. It no longer mattered who was the first to the RTS genre, after Blizzard played to their greatest strength, tapping into mass appeal. Perhaps what is most important about this landmark game for Blizzard was that it didn't just attract hardcore gamers, but it generated them. The addition of multiplayer over modem and LAN allowed for the full potential of the strategy genre to be explored by millions of friends experiencing online competition in a strategy game for the first time. The release of Warcraft not only put Blizzard on the map, it also made the company profitable, a huge milestone if you want to continue any business. Frank Pierce reminiscence of the early days. When we were a much younger and smaller company, the bonds that developed between everyone were very strong. It was easy to know everyone well, because going out for a beer only meant taking 2 or 3 cars to bring the entire company. Oftentimes, social events would take place right on the floor in the middle of the office. We spent lots of time playing games like Street Fighter, and when Magic the Gathering first came out, we used to get people together at the office every Tuesday evening to play into the night. Unique relationships are built when people share a common goal and spend blood, sweat, tears, and late nights working to achieve that goal. That's one of the things I like most about making games, working with a group of talented people that share and realize a vision. Definitely a crucial ingredient for a successful game or any project made by a group of people. The creation of Warcraft universe was to become the foundation of the company's future massive success that would catapult them to being one of the top dogs. Blizzard continued working upon it within the next year, releasing Warcraft 2 Tides of Darkness, a graphically rich expansion on the original game that offered a number of interface and multiplayer improvements. Now that we are aware of Blizzard's modest starting point, we will move on to the next chapter. Disclaimer: distinct lines between each era cannot be perfectly drawn, as no single event is in a complete vacuum that is solely responsible for Blizzard's fate, but one can definitely see where things were going well and things were going downhill. Moreover, the evidence is shown in the end results being the quality of the products and services Blizzard launches. With that, we can observe some key patterns forming and look for the key puzzle pieces in order to help us build a more complete picture. We will explore how Blizzard's games act as building blocks, with each new release playing an essential role in the development of the next game, like a chain of events leading one to another. By 1996, with an already well-received RTS game, boosting leadership confidence, staff morale, and providing a healthier revenue stream, Blizzard was ready to face a new challenge: the RPG genre. Blizzard North origins, synchronicities, and weird coincidences surrounding Condor, Diablo, and Blizzard. One of the first people to take notice of Blizzard and Warcraft was David Brevik. In September 1993, David formed the game company Condor with his friends Max and Eric. As luck would have it, Condor's first project was programming Justice League Task Force for the Genesis.
Condor and Silicon and Synapse were both working on different versions of the same thing.
Right, exactly. It was even stranger than that. So when they pitched us, hey, here's a few different products that if you're interested, you can have these jobs. Here's Justice League Task Force, here's the Aerosmith game, here's the, there are like 3 or 4 different choices or whatever. And when we said, well, we'd like to do Justice League Task Force, and they're like, are you sure? Yeah, we're sure. All right, or whatever. So we thought that we were the only version in this game. So we show up at Consumer Electronics Show and wait, there's another version of this game? There's another developer making the same game. Like, we had never met, we had never discussed anything, we had never shared ideas, we had never knew that there was another version or another developer working on the Super Nintendo version of the product at the time. And so it was, we showed up, and the games were oddly similar.
You'd arrived at it's a fighting game.
They're a fighting game,
You'd arrived at similar conclusions.
Almost exactly, and like had nearly identical settings, and like I mean, it was really weird. And so we showed up, and so we kind of talked with them and got to know them and stuff. And
is it a friendly thing, or is it like a hey, F these guys?
No, not at all. I mean, you know, it was very friendly. It was shocking to both of us, but there was no animosity. It wasn't like, oh my God, I can't believe that we didn't get both versions of this product. I'm upset that we didn't grow our company or something like that. Neither team really felt that way.
Long story short, Blizzard and Condor really liked each other. Blizzard saw an opportunity in the Diablo game and decided to join forces with Condor. They acquired them, renamed them Blizzard North, while allowing autonomy and providing necessary resources, both talent and financial. For Condor, it was a welcome change as they were struggling to pay salaries, much like early Blizzard did. It also made sense for Davidson to have Condor, thus further expanding their reach into the gaming world. As Diablo grew in scope, everyone at Blizzard headquarters, artists, programmers, designers, sound engineers, testers, worked on it to help the game reach its full potential. After nearly 2 years of development and significant revisions, Diablo was released on December 27, 1996. It launched with Battle.net, enabling multiplayer games and online chat. The game won Game of the Year awards from Computer Gaming World, GameSpot, and Computer Game Entertainment. Diablo sold over 1 million copies in its first year. Soon after, Blizzard North began work on the sequel to Diablo. Despite a longer development process, a more ambitious design, and unprecedented delays, Diablo 2 became a tremendous success. Within 3 weeks, Diablo 2 sold 1 million copies worldwide, becoming the fastest selling computer game in history. While almost everyone was working on Diablo 1, another project at Blizzard was put aside and had been pretty much neglected. A summary of StarCraft, a rocky road to success. Patrick Wyatt, a former Blizzard developer, describes the events during mid-1990s, focusing on StarCraft's development in his blog. Wyatt recalls the fundamental problem was that StarCraft wasn't envisioned as a AAA game. It was intended to fill a hole in Blizzard's development schedule so that the company would ship a game in 1996 and thereby continue to generate revenues. An article in his blog from 2012, Patrick Wyatt recounts the difficulties in developing the iconic RTS game StarCraft. Initially mocked as Orcs in Space during the E3 exhibition 1996, there Blizzard's early version of StarCraft appeared lackluster compared to competitors Ion Storm's Dominion. This prompted critical and costly reboot of the project. Blizzard at the time were focusing almost all their resources on Diablo's project. After the launch of Diablo, the end of 1996, StarCraft development was restarted, and everyone got a chance to see where the game was headed, and it wasn't pretty. The game was dated and not even remotely impressive. The massive success of Diablo reset expectations about what Blizzard should strive for. StarCraft became the game that defined Blizzard's strategy of not releasing games until they were ready. But a lot of pain was endured along the way to prove out this strategy. Wyatt describes the trade E3 show environment where developers secretly analyzed competitors' games to glean new ideas and technologies, essentially scouting what the competition is up to. Despite setbacks, including exhausting crunch periods and internal disagreements, Blizzard's commitment to quality led to StarCraft's eventual success. Ironically, the impressive Dominion demo that spurred StarCraft's overhaul was later revealed to be a fake. a fact discovered when former Ion Storm's developers joined Blizzard. Patrick Wyatt says, "At some point I talked with Mark and Patrick, former employees of Ion Storm, about how Dominion Storm knocked on our heels. They let us in on Ion Storm's dirty little secret. The entire demo was a pre-rendered movie, and the people who showed the demo were just pretending to play the game. We had been duped into rebooting StarCraft, which ultimately led it to be considered the defining game of its genre. It is the standard by which all real-time strategy games are judged. Basically, the original StarCraft we know today was the result of Blizzard devs getting tricked into thinking their competitor had a far superior product, using a CGI demo of a game that ultimately later on flopped. Battle.net's player base expanded dramatically with the release of StarCraft in 1998. Although the game featured an engaging single-player campaign, its true strength was in its multiplayer mode with 3 completely different races while still maintaining balance between them. Mike Morhaime shares that StarCraft and Diablo 2 were both difficult projects towards the end, if for no reason than that the development teams had worked so hard for such a long period of time. You may not realize while you're playing just how huge these projects really are. There was a tremendous amount of effort, passion, and just plain work that went into shipping those titles. StarCraft Brood War became a cultural phenomena in South Korea. Matches between players were shown on national television. It's not wrong to say that Korea is the mecca of esports, and StarCraft was the first strategy game to popularize the term worldwide. Warcraft 3 Reign of Chaos released July 2002. 7 long years for Warcraft 2 fans had to be waited. It incorporated RPG elements into the standard RTS formula, while also introducing 3D graphics. Most critics praised the game's graphics, both the design of the individual units as well as the game world itself, concluding that Blizzard successfully has entered the 3D universe. An expansion, The Frozen Throne, was released a year later. With every new release, Blizzard was exploring new ways to improve the experience for its players and add a new touch to their games. Warcraft 3 wasn't any different. It is considered an influential example of RTS game and one of the greatest video games ever made. Warcraft was a commercial success, shipping 4.4 million copies to retail stores, selling over 1 million within a month. Video game modifications created within the world editor, such as Defense of the Ancients, led to lasting changes and inspired many future games. Warcraft 3 further solidified Blizzard as the king of RTS games. It received universal acclaim, scoring 92 out of 100 on Metacritic. Critics praised its graphics, design, and game world, highlighting the detailed animations and impressive campaign cinematics. The game's interface was commended for being simple yet powerful, making it easy for players to control their units effectively. The soundtrack was also widely praised for being atmospheric and enhancing the game's tone with faction-specific music. Sound effects and voice acting received positive feedback for their realistic battle noises, magical effects, and humorous unit comments.
No time for play. Me not that kind of orc.
Although a few critics found some voice acting to be mediocre. By June 2003, 2 new games were in production. The first game in production was Blizzard North's version of Diablo 3, which later on was scrapped and restarted by Blizzard Entertainment. The second was a Diablo-like game which would take place in space. On June 30th, however, several key employees left Blizzard North to form 2 new companies. 8 more moved to form Flagship Studio, including Blizzard North founder and president David Bravik. Another 9 employees left to form Castaway Entertainment. By the time the exodus concluded, around 30 employees had left the company. At the time, there were some major issues causing the departure and maybe clash of opinions of where the Diablo series direction should go. 2 years later, Vivendi makes an announcement that Blizzard North's poor development of what was called Diablo 3 at the time didn't meet their expectations and closed the whole Blizzard North department. It's becoming clear that original Diablo series fate was sealed all the way back in 2003 after a lot of key figures had left. I can only speculate what caused it, but the results are obvious. Now it starts to make sense why the much delayed Diablo 3 and Diablo 4 are so much different compared to their predecessor. A sizable and important portion of the original creators had already left in the early 2000s. This is important because it continues to happen even now. Blizzard bleeds senior talents left and right.
The personalities on the team and their abilities and things like that dictated the type of game we made. I mean, the people and the talent and all the design philosophies and stuff of the people that worked on it, the Blizzard in Irvine, we called them Blizzard South. Those people, they have their own style of game, their own way that they like to design and stuff like that. And it was very, very different than the Blizzard North people. And so I think that when Blizzard South took over the development of Diablo 3, it was inevitable that they were going to create an experience that was in the Diablo theme, but concentrated more towards the things that they like to experience and they liked about, including more story and things like that. When Blizzard North shut down, they lost a ton of experience with why the action RPG works and what about it works. And so that's really difficult to recover from.
This is a major clue in forecasting the company's future. The next entry in the Warcraft franchise deviated dramatically from the RTS roots of its predecessors, but it provided Blizzard with its biggest hit to date. World of Warcraft, a massively multiplayer online role-playing game, debuted in 2004, and it drew millions of players to the shared and massive online world of Azeroth. It was a mixture of the MMO genre, which was gaining huge popularity at the time, with RPG elements which Blizzard already had experience developing. They tapped into pop culture on two fronts, the Tolkien tales combined with an MMO world. They managed to combine their prior experience and create something new. It's understatement to say it blew gamers' minds at the time. The game built on the mythology of the earlier Warcraft titles with orcs, dwarves, elves and other fantasy tropes, but the social networking aspect of the game was perhaps its greatest strength. In October 2010, almost 6 years after WoW's release, the game boasted more than 12 million monthly subscribers, the most it ever had. Keep in mind that any one of those subscribers had to pay $15 monthly fee to have access to the game, combined with buying the expansions and the original World of Warcraft. Well, 20 years later, the game is still being played by millions, although its glorious days are a distant past. Back in 2004, after the release of WoW, Blizzard changed dramatically. Its growth became ginormous. It no longer was the company it once was. I would have to agree with popular World of Warcraft streamers' take on WoW, such as Asmongold, that Classic is the best WoW version. It aligns perfectly timeline-wise and then resembles the best efforts of Blizzard's devs during the company's golden age, the epoch of game quality and improvement. Millions sought to explore the world of Azeroth as humans, dwarves, gnomes and night elves for the Alliance, and orcs, trolls, tauren and the undead for the Horde. With the game, Blizzard finally reached the mainstream Stars such as Vin Diesel, Mila Kunis, Dave Chappelle, Felicia Day, Henry Cavill, and many more have publicly admitted that they've played WoW.
Apparently they were total bros. They used to play WoW together, and on Vin Diesel's official Facebook page, he posted a video from 2010 of the two riding on their mounts through Tanarus. So enjoy that. It's an extremely low quality video. Some of these clips are. It's the best you can really. It's the best I could work with.
Although it called forth a huge wave of imitators, no other MMO could break this record customer base till this day. An article from Digitech sums it up perfectly. Diablo, StarCraft, and World of Warcraft were similar in one crucial way. They didn't blindly follow an existing trend. Blizzard always had its own pace and approach when designing games, a recipe rewarded by success over and over again. However, this reputation as an infallible studio also has its downsides. As would come to light years later, this success fed into a rockstar mentality among many long-serving developers, slowly poisoning the climate within the company. It also attracts financial predators. There is a peculiar human phenomena which occurs when you reach huge levels of success. It becomes very hard to continue on that trajectory, going on, growing more, and constantly being able to beat your past records. It requires extreme dedication and discipline as a single human being, but extremely more challenging as a company. With the creation of World of Warcraft, Blizzard achieved the equivalency of a football team winning the World Championship, a DOTA team winning the International, or in America, a team winning the NFL. This is, in my opinion, on the same scale of what Blizzard had accomplished with WoW. They conquered a gaming niche which was very popular and extremely profitable. They already had the capacity and had proven it with their StarCraft, Warcraft, and Diablo franchises. They were the king of RTS and RPG, and now they became the king of MMORPG. The money and worldwide recognition started pouring in, but being too good that you have no competition could eventually trigger your own downfall. Blizzard was on the path of overconfidence, and that alienated them from their own customers, fans, and player base. This, of course, didn't happen in a day and unraveled in the span of years, but today we can clearly see the emptiness and lack of quality substance in their games compared to their prior titles. Blizzard had set the golden standard for PC games, but unfortunately it is unable to abide by it these days. While success is the best and worst thing that could have happened to Blizzard because it made them too confident and complacent. To conclude the first chapter, what made Blizzard successful is that they introduced revolutionary improvements into their games that were rare for the time and could raise them from the competition. With the core gaming experience being top-notch, responsive and gratifying, it naturally lured people into them, even transforming non-gamers into gamers. They had the perfect formula and timing. For many people, Warcraft or StarCraft are their first introduction to an RTS genre. Diablo is their first RPG game, and World of Warcraft is their first MMO. Their games had beautiful packaging as well. From the retail boxes to the trailers, the in-game cinematics, art, graphics, and gameplay immersion were one of the best in the industry. They basically managed to be the first in implementing key innovations to enhance the experience and still had the quality and polishing in their games to back it up. That way, Blizzard secured the gamers' appreciation and converted many of them into future loyal fans. That way, they created their core audience, which would buy every new product they sell, thus allowing Blizzard Entertainment to become a colossal name in the gaming world. In 2005, Blizzard became innovative in a whole new way by creating a large-scale, dedicated convention focused on its own games and community. This event, known as BlizzCon, marked a significant milestone for the company and the gaming industry. The main focus was on the company's new projects, announcements, and developer panels, where game designs, lore, and future plans were discussed. In addition, BlizzCon featured tournaments with prize pools, starting with Warcraft 3 and StarCraft, and later expanding to include other games in Blizzard's portfolio. These tournaments showcased top-tier competitive play and attracted a large audience of esports enthusiasts. Moreover, community events were also a highlight of BlizzCon. Activities such as cosplay contests, art exhibits, and QA sessions with Blizzard developers created an engaging and interactive environment for attendees. Memorable questions were asked during these sessions, which sparked interesting discussions and provided deeper insights into Blizzard's games. For many fans, these elements combined to make BlizzCon not just a convention, but a celebration of the Blizzard's community and its shared passion for gaming. With time, the event showed how in touch or out of touch eventually Blizzard executives had come with their player base. We cannot talk about Blizzard without mentioning its step-sister Activision. Activision was founded in 1979 by a third-party gaming developer on the Atari video computer system. 9 years later, the company tried to expand into non-gaming software. However, this venture wasn't successful and the company suffered heavy losses. In 1991, a group of investors led by none other than Robert A. Kotick bought the company. Kotick instituted large restructuring, reducing debt. In 1997, the company was back to being profitable. Over the next decade, Kotick expanded Activision through numerous acquisitions, leading to successful game series like Tony Hawk's Call of Duty and Guitar Hero. However, by around 2006, the popularity of massively multiplayer online games started to grow. Such games provided a constant revenue stream to their publishers rather than only a single purchase, making them a more lucrative proposition. None of Activision's subsidiaries had an MMO or the ability to make one quickly. Activision was also facing tougher competition from companies like Electronic Arts, as well as slowdown in sales of their key game series. Around 2006, Bobby Kotick approached Vivendi's CEO, seeking access to Blizzard's successful MMO World of Warcraft. Instead, the CEO of Vivendi proposed merging with Activision, with Vivendi retaining majority control. Initially hesitant due to potential loss of control, Kotick recognized then the opportunity for expansion, especially in China, after discussions with Blizzard CEO Mike Morhaime. The merger proposal was accepted by Activision's board in December 2007, forming Activision Blizzard with Kotick as CEO. The European Commission approved the merger in April 2008 and it was finalized on July 9th for approximately $18.9 billion. While Blizzard retained its autonomy and corporate leadership in the merger, other Vivendi games divisions such as Sierra weren't as lucky and had to cease operation. With the merger, Kotick was quoted stating, "If a Sierra product did not meet Activision's requirements, they won't likely be retained." There was a significant game release gap between 2005 and 2010. From 94 to 04, Blizzard had released 9 standalone games and 4 expansions. However, from 2005 to mid-2010, they released 0 standalone games and only 2 expansions. First, we already know one reason for the lack of games is Blizzard North's disbandment. Another major reason was that their primary focus was on World of Warcraft, evident by the expansions released during that period. For those 5 to 6 years, Blizzard was synonymous with one title, World of Warcraft. It outshined all their previous titles. In addition, a console game called StarCraft Ghost was announced in 2002.
The way of the warrior is the path of shadow. The gift of the warrior is to perceive that which cannot be seen. The spirit of the warrior is to strike in a single moment. The destiny of the warrior is balance in all things. And when balance is lost, all that is left is the reckoning.
It was meant to mark Blizzard's significant return to the console market. Unfortunately for many fans, the project was postponed indefinitely. Its cancellation was eventually confirmed by CEO Michael Morhaime in 2014. While the merger between Blizzard and Activision was happening, a major worldwide event was unfolding that would disrupt the money flow. The global financial crisis was a severely negative economic event that occurred in the late 2000s. Activision Blizzard's stock plummeted nearly 60% from its all-time highs. The effects of the GFC were taking a toll on everything, and even though World of Warcraft was a humongous success, the uncertainty of the global picture was too worrisome for investors. Money was flowing out of risk-on assets into more conservative ones. We have to agree that a gaming company in 2008 wasn't synonymous with a safe haven, so it made sense at the time. Logically, Blizzard needed to boost revenue and profits even further, so they released an in-game digital store where additional microtransactions were added over time. Keep in mind, this was already on top of a monthly subscription-based game for which you needed to buy the base game along with 2 expansions. World of Warcraft was milking its customers on 3 major fronts. This made World of Warcraft a literal golden goose. The level of greed to which the executives and shareholders were exposed and still are to this day was immense. Their expectations back then grew exponentially given Blizzard's expanding revenue stream. In 2009, Bobby Kotick, the fresh CEO of Activision Blizzard, became infamous for a controversial statement he made during a Deutsche Bank Securities Technology Conference in San Francisco. This philosophy showcased his leadership style clearly. Take all the fun out of making video games. I think we definitely have been able to instill the culture, the skepticism, and pessimism and fear that you should have in an economy like we are in today. And so, while generally people talk about the recession, we are pretty good at keeping people focused on a deep depression. Bobby Kotick's endorsement of a corporate culture based on skepticism, pessimism, and fear is counterintuitive and paradoxical, given that a gaming company needs creativity, new ideas, and innovation to make a good product. The former do not align well with the latter, for obvious reasons. With enough context, here's the summary of the 4 arguments why I think the Blizzard's golden age lasted about 10 years from 1994-95-ish to 2004-05-ish. The first reason is the disassembly of Blizzard North and cancellation of the 2 games they were working on. Activision Blizzard merger, which would prove to be lethal for the game quality later on. Game release drought and WoW as the perceived sole priority, undermining other franchises. Fourth one is the great financial crisis, which happened at the time. In my opinion, these 4 things combined did significant damage to Blizzard later on, and the ripple effects are felt by them to this very day, with many questionable decisions to follow in the coming years. In 2010, Blizzard made a very controversial announcement concerning their Battle.net forum. In short, Blizzard were having problems with trolling on their forums, so they decided that they would want to enforce people to post using their real ID. In their mind, removing anonymity would have reduced flame wars, trolling, and other disruptive behavior. However, numerous forum users expressed fears of stalking account theft, and personal safety, highlighting that they sign up with the expectation of anonymity. People were fearful of the potential consequences the decision might have. In addition, they play games, especially MMOs, to emerge into a new, different world, forget and detach from their real lives. Exposing freely the connection between their WoW character, name, and real life would have negative effect on that. Not long after, Blizzard abandoned its controversial plan. Users would post using their Battle.net character names and codes. While the ID forum drama took a positive turn, people definitely had a glimpse of what potential big mess Blizzard could willingly get themselves into. Damage has been done. A concern had risen. Why were they going to implement such a thing in the first place? Whoever proposed and approved that either didn't think of the consequences or did it anyways knowingly. We'll never know which one, but that whole situation had definitely worried some people, and rightfully so. The release of StarCraft 2 was long awaited, with 12 years passing since Brood War and over 5 years since Blizzard's last new game. It was a monumental event for fans of real-time strategy games. StarCraft 2 can be credited as one of the titles that brought esports into mainstream recognition worldwide, much like its predecessor did for Korea. However, Blizzard's emphasis on multiplayer aspects somewhat overshadowed other essential features that had attracted a casual audience to their previous games, such as the arcade and custom game section. Additionally, the game lacked chat functionality upon release. To put it mildly, the release felt somewhat premature, lacking the signature Blizzard polish despite its lengthy development period. It's possible the game was slightly rushed. However, it has since undergone significant improvements, and StarCraft 2 now boasts a variety of well-crafted features. The game received 2 expansions, Heart of the Swarm in 2013 and Legacy of the Void in 2015, which continued the campaign story, enhanced unit abilities, and introduced new units to the multiplayer experience. StarCraft 2 faced challenges over the years, notably during the Broodlord Investor era in 2012, when the game balance issues persisted for 6 months without resolution from Blizzard until the next expansion. Many players migrated to other games like League of Legends and Valve's Dota 2, impacting StarCraft 2 player base and its presence in the esports scene. Despite being mocked as a dead game since 2012, a tweet from Total Biscuit's account in 2017 revealed a still healthy monthly user base of about 2 million players. However, the professional scene has diminished with declining viewership on gaming platforms like Twitch. It's disheartening to see the game, which played a significant role in the establishment of Twitch, struggle to maintain its viewership. This decline may be attributed to Blizzard's decision to halt further development on the game. The Korean scene, once vibrant, now hangs on live support. The revelation and subsequent proof of match-fixing allegation against one of the top players live, along with similar scandals involving other players, severely impacted the Korean scene. The discontinuation of the Pro League in 2016 dealt a further blow to the Korean SC2 professional teams. In 2024, StarCraft 2 still hosts premier and major tournaments, with prize pools totaling $1 or $2 million annually, mostly coming from ESL, sustaining a select group of the very top professional players. However, it pales in comparison to its peak popularity. The decline in the game's esports scene is evident, and Blizzard seems either clueless about how to address it or unwilling to do so for years. SC2 was my main and only game for about 7 long years. I like to express my strong opinion of Blizzard being notoriously incapable of properly running, growing, preserving and balancing an esports title and scene. They were too slow with implementing changes. They let the game be in a bad state for long periods of time. As remarkable as their games have been, their actual ability to maintain and manage an esports scene is lackluster. We could see many examples of this, and you can ask many StarCraft pros about their opinion on the subject. For contrast, League of Legends, a single game, grew and maintained a bigger audience than the entirety of Blizzard esports added together. Blizzard, a AAA behemoth who has the privilege of tremendous success for over a decade, having thousands of employees and being worth tens of billions of dollars, yet it lets its reputation be ruined because of the atrocious corporate greed and shareholder ass-licking, chasing quarterly revenue highs and eroding long-term franchise growth and sustainability. An empty vessel of a formal PC game gold standard settler, but I digress. Moving on. Blizzard Entertainment, renowned for creating some of the most iconic games in history, notably missed an enormous opportunity with the DOTA and its subsequent late entry into the mobile genre. This misstep is particularly striking given Blizzard's historical position as a trendsetter in the gaming industry. The origins of DOTA, a mode for Blizzard's own game Warcraft 3, made this oversight even more ironic and significant. Standalone Dota 2 game was up for grabs, with games designer IceFrog reaching out to Blizzard first, but they pushed the idea aside and it did cost them dearly in retrospect. Blizzard former chief creator officer Rob Pardo, in a podcast from October 2014, a couple of months after leaving Blizzard, has been sharing some key details on Dota.
No, I'd be interested to hear what your thoughts are about MOBAs in general. I remember when we first met, which was, I guess, probably around 2006, one of the first things you told me is I should download this mod called Defense of the Ancients for Warcraft 3 and check it out. So you guys were obviously very aware of what was going on with it. Why was there not a Blizzard MOBA started back then?
I mean, honestly, it's just development bandwidth.
Yeah.
I mean, like you said, we were aware of it. We knew it was getting really popular. I actually did have kind of an official sit-down meeting with the other kind of execs of the studio and said, hey, we should really talk about this. And we walked down the path and talked about what it would take. And we also actually brought IceFrog out and talked to him a bit too. And we just, made the decision that we just didn't feel like we could take it on and make it successful at the time.
The timing was pretty bad in the sense that you guys were still dealing with World of Warcraft and had been starting the next versions of your huge other...
StarCraft 2 was already a couple years down the path.
Diablo 3 was...
Yeah, and that was another thing that was getting ready to happen too. We were getting ready to bring Diablo 3 down to Irvine, and it just didn't feel like at that time we could, do a Blizzard job on a Dota game.
Yeah, it would be a major risk.
Yeah.
Right.
By failing to recognize and capitalize on the potential of early on, Blizzard ceded ground to competitors who would go on to dominate the genre. The late release of Heroes of the Storm could not recapture the momentum, leading to missed financial opportunities and a tarnished reputation for innovation. This episode serves as a cautionary tale of how even the most successful companies must continually adapt and anticipate trends to maintain their leadership in a fast-evolving industry. An article from PC Games from 2019, co-founder and CEO Mike Morhaime said, "One of my regrets is that we didn't pursue Dota early enough. Frankly, we had our hands full trying to support the growth of World of Warcraft. We felt like focusing on Warcraft was the right call at the time. If I could go back in time and say, why don't we have a small team that's focused on doing something with Dota? I'd love to try doing that a little bit earlier. The mod could have been included alongside StarCraft 2. He also confirms that the eventual release of their MOBA game was, quote, probably too late. Diablo 3 introduced an in-game auction house system that allowed players to buy and sell items using real or in-game currency. This system received heavy criticism for various reasons. It affected the game's economy, as the best items were often only available through the auction house, leading to imbalance and lack of satisfaction in finding gear through gameplay. Additionally, the real money auction house was seen as a potential avenue for pay-to-win mechanics, which frustrated players who preferred a more skill-based progression system. Loot system and itemization. Diablo games are known for their loot-driven gameplay, where finding powerful items is a core part of the experience. However, Diablo 3's loot system at launch faced widespread criticism. Drop rates for rare and powerful items were low, and the random itemization often led to players receiving items that were not suited for their character. This resulted in a lack of excitement and satisfaction when acquiring loot, and the endgame item grind became monotone. Diablo 3 game content was seen as lacking depth and longevity. The initial release had limited activities beyond completing the main story and repeating the same few dungeons. This lack of variety and meaningful endgame goals caused many players to lose interest once they finished the campaign. Diablo 3's highest difficulty level, Inferno, was extremely challenging and imbalanced upon release. Players felt that the difficulty spike was too steep and unfair, which led to frustration and lack of progression. The game required extensive gear grinding to progress, making it inaccessible and unenjoyable for many players. Blizzard's communication with the player base during Diablo 3's troubled launch was perceived as inadequate. The company was slow to address and fix the issues players were facing, leading to frustration and a sense of abandonment. Patches and updates to address the game's problems were delayed, exacerbating player dissatisfaction. 2013, with Reaper of Souls, the next Diablo 3 expansion, a lot of the problems have been addressed, but the core problem had put a dent into Blizzard's reputation. For a second time, they had released unpolished product and took their sweet time and extra money after a paid expansion before fixing those issues. A post summarized pretty well a variety of problems that Diablo 3 had. Remember what happened in 2005? It's ironic to know that the official reason given for Blizzard North's disassembly was, quote, didn't meet Vivendi's expectations. Yet years later, Blizzard still released a flawed product. At this point, we start seeing some reoccurring patterns with problems in game design, game balance, and delaying patches to address those issues. The very same problems StarCraft 2 had been facing for almost its entire lifespan. Something had definitely changed inside Blizzard, and it wasn't for good. If you're interested in a more broad and in-depth look at the development story of Diablo 3, I strongly recommend watching this video from Indigo Gaming YouTube channel called A Cautionary Tale: 12 Years of Development Hell.
Jay Wilson lamented the auction house years after he left Blizzard. The problem is, of course, it over-legitimized trading. It made it too easy. I think we all know this by now, and the consequences. We worried about these consequences ahead of time, but we thought the benefits would outweigh the downsides. And WoW's auction house seemed like a good proof of concept. Obviously, we were mistaken.
The problem wasn't that people didn't want to use it. The problem was that nearly every Diablo 3 vanilla player used the auction house at least once. Auctions became a way to bypass the stingy loot system, or to make a quick buck from items that your main class couldn't use. Blizzard didn't predict the overwhelming demand, and some players took advantage of this feature, turning the game into a play-to-earn scheme. One seller shared his PayPal statement, proving that he made $10,000 selling in-game gear. This was a peek into the new and exciting world of digital speculation, and the naive, early cryptocurrency, pre-NFT innocence of 2012. Even if you never paid real money, you could save up gold to get gear too time-consuming to grind for at your level. These tantalizing items, just a few clicks away inside a built-in feature, forever changed the dynamic of the game.
2013 wasn't the best year for Blizzard. In May, their secretive project Titan was cancelled after 7 years in development. The fallout from this decision reverberated throughout Blizzard's development team, evident in their own reactions. I'd like to share a different perspective, one that might not align with the views of die-hard Overwatch fans. But after researching into Blizzard's history, it's evident to me that Overwatch emerged from the remnants of a grandiose Titan project that ultimately failed, as acknowledged by Blizzard's executives. While Overwatch brought immense success to the company, it came at a significant cost in terms of time, resources, and staff morale. Looking back, the inception of Project Titan in 2007 and the eventual release of Overwatch in 2016 spanned a staggering 9 years of development, a considerable investment. Moreover, the countless hours spent by developers on Titan only to see their work scrapped undoubtedly took a toll on staff motivation. Shareholders, including Bobby Kotick, likely weren't pleased with the squandered potential and the lost resources. This disappointment may have fueled Blizzard's determination to elevate Overwatch into the next esport juggernaut, leading to substantial investments such as the acquisition of MLG and the construction of arenas across the US. Collectively, Blizzard had been doubling down on this vision for over a decade. Upon its release, Overwatch achieved success, but perhaps not to the extent envisioned during the early 2010s. There seemed to be a relentless push to make Overwatch more than it could be, akin to parents with unrealistic expectations for their children. Despite being good games, Heroes of the Storm and Overwatch couldn't match the legendary status of OG Warcraft, StarCraft, Diablo, and World of Warcraft. Accepting this reality has been challenging for Blizzard as their past triumphs have clouded their approach, leading to questionable decisions. Ironically, some of Blizzard's decisions hindered their quest for newfound success. For instance, they missed an opportunity in the early 2010s to capitalize on the MOBA genre, potentially rivaling League of Legends and preventing the rise of DOTA. It appears that Blizzard was determined to turn their missteps into victories. This drive explains their fervent promotion of Overwatch as a major esports title despite its challenges. However, Overwatch scene faced hurdles sustaining viewer engagement and viewer experience.
And what are the different ways that, we can make our games last as long as possible, and esports is a really good example of a way to do that.
So what are the design aesthetics of like the perfect esport game?
I think the easier way to talk about it is you just talk about other competitions in sports and which things are good. There's certain sports and certain competitions that televise really well, and there's certain ones that don't, right? And I think that's kind of where you start. It's the problem I think with most of the esports right now is unless you already have played the game quite a bit, I don't feel like it's easy to really get in and start watching and understand what's happening.
Sure.
And that's just because the games are really complex and they aren't really conducive to that. I think that's one of the things really interesting watching Hearthstone, which was not designed to be an esport, but strangely enough is very popular on Twitch. And I think that's one of the reasons, because it is such a simple game and it's so easy to follow. Like, it doesn't demand that you have a tremendous amount of deep knowledge of the game to understand what's happening, like I think League of Legends or StarCraft 2 does.
Yeah.
During this period, Blizzard's focus on RTS, RPG, and MMORPG, where their traditional strengths lied, was unfortunately neglected. This deterioration was predominantly evident in Warlords of Draenor expansion, where attention being derived away from it was obvious for many players. In hindsight, the impact of Project Titan on Blizzard's franchise was profound. It's plausible that this diversion of resources played a role in Blizzard's decision-making process, possibly also contributing to their delayed entry into the MOBA market and their other franchises. In 2014, Blizzard experienced slight resurgence as their new game called Hearthstone turned out to be a fun one and was well received by both critics and gamers. It is similar to Magic the Gathering, but with a Warcraft spin on it, and simpler for new players. The game seemed casual and fun, with a sheer bit of luck involved, yet it had some strategic depth into it, from crafting your own deck to playing it correctly and deciding whether you want to play for board control or deal direct damage to your opponent's face, which would deliver a quicker victory but at a momentum cost. Many hardcore fans of Blizzard didn't initially respect Hearthstone as it seemed too casual to them, but it amassed a huge following, rapidly reaching 100 million users after it was published into the mobile gaming market later. In retrospect, what I liked about it is that I could feel that old Blizzard spirit of getting into a game genre and innovating in it with their own spin of it. Combined with the vibrant and alluring universe of Warcraft, it's no wonder it became a success. Unfortunately, Blizzard at the time was under the ever-rising influence of shareholders and Bobby Kotick as CEO, so the monetization scheme of the game became atrociously greedy and disrespectful towards players, as it forced constant buying of card packs in order to stay relevant with the meta, and new expansions which came out multiple times per year. In total, Hearthstone has 31 expansions for its 10-year lifespan, quite a number bigger than all their other games' expansions combined. Ironically, at BlizzCon the same year, during a Q&A section, Blizzard higher-ups didn't disappoint in showcasing their detachment from their fans.
Have you ever thought about adding servers for previous expansions as they were then?
No. And by the way, you don't want to do that either. You think you do, but you don't. Remember when you had to like spam cities and say need a tank, need a tank, need a tank during the Burning Crusade days? You don't remember that because now you just push a button that says go to the dungeon. You don't want to do that. Remember that one bug that really pissed you off that we fixed like 2 years ago? Still there in the past.
Their indulgent and patronizing attitude was striking, considering their presence there was due to the very people they were mocking. Thanks to those fans, they had jobs, yet they showed blatant disrespect. By that point, Blizzard had distanced themselves so far from their player base that it was only a matter of time before things got much worse. Their faultless attitude and arrogance, believing they could do no wrong, had taken over. They were no longer serving their customers, but catering to their own self-centered greed at the expense of their loyal fans.
Behold the absolute power of Wilfred Fizzlebang, Master Summoner! You are bound to me, demon.
Trifling gnome! Your arrogance will be your undoing!
But I'm in charge.
This concludes the slow decline of Blizzard. Sadly, from this point onwards, things start accelerating for the worse, and Blizzard's reputation takes major hits over and over again, almost every following year.
Father, is it over?
At long last. No king rules forever, my son.
I see. Only darkness before me.
A vast number of scandals and controversies have negatively affected the company, showcasing the severe damage that corporate greed, immoral and unethical acts can cause to a company's reputation, its employees, its fans, and its legacy. We must shed light on the issue because it is a pitfall that not only Blizzard Entertainment has fallen into, but many human organizations beyond the gaming industry as well. The erosion in morality and human values didn't occur over a day or a week, but over many years, with Blizzard Entertainment resembling an enormous and mighty cruiser slowly sinking into its own manifested oblivion. In 2016, a server called Nostalrius ran World of Warcraft on its original state before the first expansion. Many players wanted to play there with over 800,000 registered accounts. Apparently Blizzard were very wrong about the whole "you think you do, but you don't." Instead of accepting the mistake and learning from it, they decided to send a cease and desist letter to Nostalrius' team. Since the project was run from pure altruism and love for the game, Nostalrius' team decided to shut down the servers. From the research I did on the subject, the letter itself had almost no legal consequences, if any, and there was little Blizzard can do afterwards in stopping Nostalrius from running. A possible scenario is that the team behind this project wanted the outcry from the fans losing the servers to cause Blizzard to actually consider bringing back the game in its past state. Now, with evidential proof at their disposal that many players want and are willing to play that version of the game, giving them an obvious incentive to do so. Furthermore, a petition from Nostalrius' team was started on April 7, 2016, gathering almost 280,000 signatures to bring back legacy servers. There was an open letter from Mark Kern, a former team lead vanilla World of Warcraft, addressing Mike Morhaime specifically to bring back those servers.
If a fan server like Nostalrius can grow for over a year, attracting nearly 1 million fans, think how many would come back to WoW if Blizzard launched official legacy servers. Your last reported numbers were around 5 million accounts, and by all estimates the current number is much lower now. Why not add another 1 or 2 million subscribers? I would also like to put in a word for the devs who created Nostalrius and launched this whole movement. I've spoken to them, and they are good people. They only put up a legacy server because there was no other way to play. They didn't do it for profit or fame. They did it out of love for the game. All they want is to enjoy Legacy WoW again, and they would actually prefer it if Blizzard did this officially and would be willing to provide information, tools, and programs to help if needed.
Many popular streamers also have expressed their desire for classic WoW servers.
If you've seen my stream ever, you probably heard me do a long rant about why I hate World of Warcraft currently. So what is something I personally was really passionate about in vanilla World of Warcraft, something I really thought was huge for me personally, was the leveling. I thought the leveling was awesome. I loved logging in, being a level 1, and earning my way to being level 60. For most people, leveling to 60 could take months. Months, it really would. In current World of fucking Warcraft, you can get to level 100 by buying it. You can literally buy it. That's absurd. But even if you don't want to buy it, you can legitimately get to level 100 in a day. A fucking day. And the thing is, you'll do it with the same gear all the way from 1 to 100. And on top of that, you will legitimately level and you'll never even leave the town. You'll get to level 15 and you'll do Dungeon Finder all the way up. I actually liked WoD at first, but it ran out of content and they added WoD flying and they added all this other horseshit and I quit. The thing is, you guys refuse to add your own servers. You refuse to do it. So Nostalrius does it. Even myself, when I heard of Nostalrius the first time, I literally remember saying, I don't know if I want to play Nostalrius because I don't like private servers. They always try and, take some money under the rug. A lot of private servers do that scummy shit. Nostalrius didn't. They legitimately just got enough money to run the server. We don't want any profit. They literally ran it for just the love of the game.
Remember that famous quote from J. Allen Brack?
Have you ever thought about adding servers for previous expansions as they were then?
No. And by the way, you don't want to do that either. You think you do, but you don't.
Well, there have been some updates regarding that matter.
Fans of World of Warcraft around the world, we hear you. I am pleased and also a little bit nervous to announce the development of a classic server option for World of Warcraft. This is a larger endeavor than you might imagine, but we are committed to making an authentic Blizzard quality classic experience. We want to reproduce the game experience that we all enjoyed from the original classic WoW, not the actual launch experience. So please bear with us. It's going to take some time, but it will happen.
The game was released on 26th of August 2019, 15 years after its initial launch back in 2004. Over 1 million concurrent viewers were watching Classic WoW on Twitch that day. It's not an exaggeration to say that 2018 was a challenging year for Blizzard Entertainment. The company's struggles became evident towards the end of the year, starting with the resignation of the CEO Michael Morhaime. He was succeeded by J. Allen Brack, who had been the executive producer on World of Warcraft. Yep, that same guy. This period marked a significant shift for Blizzard, highlighting a downward trajectory that continued to impact the company's operations and reputation. Speaking of reputation, at BlizzCon the same year, Blizzard teased a significant announcement that turned out to be Diablo Immortal, a mobile game in the Diablo franchise. This review was met with disappointment from the audience, who were predominantly PC gamers. The game trailer, which was published on Diablo's official YouTube channel, received hundreds of thousands of dislikes, reaffirming the same broader stance. Additionally, the game garnered one of the worst user rating scores on Metacritic at the time. The whole event was a PR disaster.
I was curious, I see a lot of mechanics that we've kind of been begging for in Diablo 3 in this. Is there any plans to make this playable on PC, or is this strictly mobile forever?
Are there any? The current plan is to be on mobile, both Android and iOS. We don't have any plans at the moment to do PC. Do you guys not have phones?
Yeah, you guys all have phones, right?
You can play on your tablet too.
Hey, just was wondering, is this an out-of-season April Fool's joke?
No, it's a fully fledged Diablo experience on mobile, which everybody will get to play.
Heroes of the Storm released in 2015, and unfortunately for the game, it never truly had a proper chance of going after the well-established in the MOBA genre by that time League of Legends and Dota 2. Only after a couple years in late 2018, the game was put on life support, with its esports scene getting shut down by Activision Blizzard, which coincides with the mass layoffs during the same period. That announcement killed many players' dreams, leaving them disappointed, angry, and betrayed. The gross act was that a lot of players were misled by Blizzard's employees that the company would still support the game in 2019. People who made a living based on Heroes of the Storm, including players, streamers, team owners, and commentators, said they felt deeply blindsided and betrayed.
And now it's just all gone. The game is irrelevant. If there's no competitive scene, there's no league, then the game's just dead. Like, it's absolutely awful. This is so terrible. I can't believe that they did this. And I'm so damn sorry to anyone who got jebaited by my tweets the other day where I said that the HGC will be a thing in 2019, because I was straight up told by Blizzard employees at BlizzCon, and all of Tempo Storm thought this same thing. Well, of course we thought it because we were told it by people who work at fucking Blizzard, that the HGC was going to be the same, funding equal or greater for next year. A little bit of different roster rules, but that's about it.
At this point, it was crystal clear that Blizzard Entertainment was no longer standing for its gaming communities. The main and only goal was to profit now while cutting all costs. During October, the stock market made a downward correction, and Activision Blizzard stock took a 50% price cut, a similar hit to that of the GFC we spoke about that might have been one of the main drivers for what came next. In February 2019, Activision Blizzard announced significant layoffs affecting nearly 800 employees, which accounted for approximately 8% of its workforce. The layoffs primarily impacted non-development roles, including the marketing, publishing, and other support-related parts of the business. This decision further strained Blizzard's already damaged relationship with its community and employees, especially following other controversies and negative press in preceding months. The Blitzchung controversy involves Weichung, a professional Hearthstone player from Hong Kong, known as Blitzchung, who was penalized by Blizzard for expressing support for the 2019-2020 Hong Kong protests during a live stream interview on October 6th. Wearing a mask similar to those used by protesters, Blitzchung voiced the slogan "Liberate Hong Kong, the revolution of our time," prompting Blizzard to cut the stream and subsequently ban him from Hearthstone tournaments for 1 year, forfeit his prize money, and terminate contracts with the two casters conducting the interview. The public's response was swift and polarized, with significant backlash against Blizzard, including accusations of the company prioritizing its business interests in China over free speech rights. This led to widespread calls for a boycott or walkout by Blizzard employees and a joint letter from US Congress condemning Blizzard's actions and urging the company to reconsider its stance. Blizzard eventually reduced Blitzchung's and casters' bans to 6 months and reinstated his prize money. Between 2017 and 2021, Blizzard Entertainment experienced a significant turnover of high-profile developers and executives, reflecting substantial shifts within the company. This period saw the departure of key figures who had been influential in shaping Blizzard's creative and operational landscape.
So they were very skillful.
Yeah. Blizzard continued cutting people off. This time, the team in Versailles, France, got fired. Blizzard customer support's quality got diminished heavily, speaking from experience. A bad thing about mass layoffs is when you find out it's just an accounting trick and helps short-term financial goals in exchange for hurting long-term financial goals. When the company has a bad quarter, if they lay off enough people, their next quarter will look great. This is because the damage from layoffs is generally not felt within such a short time, while the accountants get to shuffle some payroll numbers around. What isn't represented by the number is that layoffs hurt company culture, work ethic, attrition rates, burnout rates, company image, and of course production.
The front door to the building. These are big glass doors. And we came inside, and all the managers were standing like this, in like a semicircle. And when you came in, they would stop you, and they would have you go through this door, or they'd have you go through this door. If you went through this door, you were fired. But you didn't know that. They didn't tell you that. And if you went through this door, you were going to your desk. That is what happened. That was how we found out. Now, here was the biggest problem. There was a back of the building. The back of the building had a door as well, and many people went to the back of the building to get into the building every day. So they made it to their desk, and then managers had to go around and find them and escort them out, silently. Half of our team got laid off.
Now, if the company does not engage in a growth strat or does not grow fast enough to replace those employees, all of those negative effects become more and more pronounced. There are a ton of reasons for this that can be simplified down to people tend to be different from one another. On the accounting sheet, there are numbers that can be moved around, but in real life, those numbers aren't equivalent, and attempting to do that often leads to bad math. like trying to do algebra with 800 unique variables. A lot of companies know this, but they still do layoffs because the short-term gains make the investors happy and the people making the decisions are never going to be directly affected by it. Executives can send their company into a death spiral and hop over to another company before it collapses. They can even stay on for pay raises because boards tend to give those out to retain executives during company death spirals. It's an entirely broken and inhumane system that needs to change if we want the world to be a better place.
It was always leveled at the decision makers and the people who made the content choices. And these people who either are working at Blizzard because they've had such a love for the company over the years, because once upon a time, you know, it was a great company once upon a time. Or because getting Blizzard Entertainment on your resume is a stepping stone hopefully for you. So you gotta ride it out. You gotta ride out the shitty pay, the shitty hours, the shitty living conditions because of the prices of property against your wages. So that you can work it out, get a decent number of years under your belt, and then hopefully move somewhere where your skill set will be actually appreciated and you will be financially rewarded for it.
Warcraft Reforged was meant to be the renewed, modernized, and polished version of the Warcraft 3 game. The same game which was responsible for the birth of other major games such as DOTA and League of Legends, and even their most successful game. However, they completely ruined that endeavor. Reforged released in 2020, facing significant backlash for not meeting fan expectations. Promised features such as enhanced graphics, new cutscenes, and an overhauled UI were either poorly implemented or missing entirely. Additionally, the game launched with numerous technical issues, and Blizzard's handling of user-generated content sparked controversy. The disappointment was compounded by the company's lackluster response to criticism, further damaging Blizzard's reputation. Eventually, they were even forced to allow users the option to refund their purchases.
How did you end up being brought into Warcraft 3 Reforged development? Did you reach out to Blizzard or did they reach out to you? I was reached out to. A friend who is still at Blizzard to this day sent me an email asking if I would be interested in working on something based on the Warcraft 3 engine. And of course I said yes. Now, this is a long story as well. It took months to get to a final negotiation point just to get a contract. And ultimately, we started on it, and we actually produced documents, and I got my first and last payment from them for that project just before the 800 layoffs. So there was a 500 layoffs earlier, like around 2007, I want to say. And there was, in 2019, was it? I think there was another 800 layoffs by Activision Blizzard. And after those layoffs, I got ghosted. They stopped talking to me. And I still had one more document that I needed to deliver to sort of fulfill the contract. And so I was waiting. I just left it open. They'd already paid me. So I just left it open saying if they would come to collect that document. And they never did. And later we find out that they had dramatically slashed the budget for Warcraft 3 Reforged to almost nothing. And now that that's all public information, thanks to Jason Schreier's reporting, you know, I feel much more comfortable being open and honest about just how much they screwed Warcraft 3 Reforged. And it's pretty clear to me that it came from the top. Maybe even Kotick directly. I'm not 100% sure. But it was a monetary thing. They screwed the game that we all wanted to see for money because they thought there was no money in this. And they proved themselves right because they effed the product and now no one wants it. So, sad. when you were working on Reforged, apparently you were brought in later in development. Was it clear when you arrived that it was already screwed? It wasn't screwed when I started. When I started on Warcraft 3 Reforged, it was going really well. It was actually going to be quite impressive. So I got reached out to. So we've got one original campaign designer plus the two who are already at Blizzard. Maybe they didn't have time for this, and that's why I was summoned. Not sure. But I brought in Tim Campbell as well, who was one of the best campaign designers for Warcraft 3 and the Frozen Throne. So it would have been amazing if they hadn't cut the budget and basically stopped talking to us. And when I say they ghosted us and they stopped talking to us, I mean they totally ghosted us. Not even an email saying, oops, sorry, it didn't work out, budget got cut. Nothing. Not a fucking word. And this was from a friend, so it kind of hurt in an extra special way. But it wasn't screwed when I started. It did not become abundantly clear that Reforged had been hosed until basically it shipped. Because I still had hope that maybe they'd restricted the budget and they were just focusing on the core game and making those cinematics work and stuff. But they didn't even do that. In fact, there was only one campaign designer for all of Reforged. That's nuts. We're talking about a campaign that took like 9 people 2 years to create for just Reign of Chaos, and they're gonna redo all those maps with new cinematics and everything with one guy? Impossible. So that's just how badly the budget got hosed. But you know what? That's because Blizzard is dead, and now it's just Activision's sock puppet.
In 2021, Blizzard implemented a process called stack ranking, in which employees are ranked on a bell curve, and managers must give low ratings to roughly 8% of the staff. Those people would receive lower profit-sharing bonus money and could hamper them from receiving raises or promotions in the near future. Brian Birmingham, a team lead producer on classic World of Warcraft, avoided those rankings for a long time, but at some point he was forced to do them. He made an ultimatum to the higher-ups that either they reverse those rankings or he would leave. Unfortunately, it was the latter. Blizzard Entertainment has been actively working on its environmental, social, and governance agenda, which encompasses a wide range of initiatives aimed at fostering a more diverse, inclusive, and environmentally responsible company. In their first ESG report, released in 2021, Blizzard outlined commitments to championing their employees, advancing diversity and inclusion, and protecting the planet.
It also takes into consideration the interests of our stakeholders identified in a relevance survey, which we carried out for the first time in 2021.
Now we're getting somewhere closer to the truth. And would it surprise you, dear viewer, if I was to tell you that Vanguard was one of the stakeholders in CD Projekt Red? We all know about Vanguard and BlackRock and alike, and they have a very specific idea about how they want you to think.
You now make a point of that's an investment criteria for you.
Well, behaviors are going to have to change, and this is one thing we're asking companies. You have to force behaviors, and at BlackRock we are forcing behaviors.
Oh, please carry on, Adolf Fink.
You know, what we are doing internally is if you don't achieve these levels of impact, your compensation could be impacted, okay?
Compensation such as loans, or maybe your stock price suddenly being tanked.
You have to force behaviors. And if you don't force behaviors, whether it's gender or race, or just any way you want to say the composition of your team, you're going to be impacted.
Wow, that sounded suspiciously like a threat to me, but what do I know? Of course, this has got nothing to do with any sort of corporate extortion whatsoever. They just so happen to be invested in all of these companies, all of these industries, and seem to somehow dictate everything that goes on within them. Purely coincidental, I guess. They're too deep into this goddamn DIE, DEI, ESG horseshit.
By 2022, Blizzard had made further progress, including increasing the representation of women and non-binary employees, appointing their first Chief Diversity, Equity and Inclusion Officer, and launching new inclusive game design initiatives. These steps reflect Blizzard's broader commitment to operating transparently and ethically, ensuring their games and workplace culture are inclusive and reflective of diverse communities. Ironically, the state of California filed a lawsuit in 2021 against the game company Activision Blizzard. The complaint contains numerous examples of how female employees were harassed. It also states that female employees in World of Warcraft team were hit on and humiliated by their superiors. A former CTO is accused of grouping female colleagues at company events and hiring women based on their looks. Women of color had an even harder time being harassed, particularly often, as the complaint reveals. As a result, numerous high-ranking members have already left the company. This includes the president, the head of HR, the game director on Diablo 4, the chief level designer on Diablo 4, and the level designer on World of Warcraft. In addition, many major sponsors such as Coca-Cola, IBM, and others have jumped ship regarding the Overwatch esports league. The lawsuit represents the current low point of the former flagship studio.
The only thing I tell them, and this letter, which went out January 20th, 2003, it says it's been 2.5 years since my last memo. Now, how many big companies do you have the managers out there been 2.5 years since they've heard from the home office? It's been 2.5 years since my last memo. Here are a couple things to keep in mind. And number one, and this is number one every time, this doesn't change. It won't change 2 years from now or 4 years from now or 6 years from now. Number one, we can afford to lose money, even a lot of money. We cannot afford to lose reputation, even a shred of reputation. Let's be sure that everything we do in business can be reported on the front page of a national newspaper in an article written by an unfriendly but intelligent reporter. In many areas, including acquisitions, Berkshire's results have benefited from its reputation, and we don't want to do anything that in any way can tarnish it. Last year, Berkshire was ranked by Fortune as the 4th most admired company in the world. This year, we were 3rd in the United States. They just published it. It took us 37 years to get there, but we could lose it in 37 minutes. And that's the message. I mean, we can lose money. It does, nicer to make money, but we'll figure out ways to make money. But we can't lose a shred of reputation because you don't get it back. And you can, I said 37 minutes, but you can lose it a lot faster than that. You can lose it in 5 minutes.
Overwatch 2 faced heavy criticism upon its release due to various issues. Blizzard had initially advertised a rich PvE experience with story mission and hero progression, but these features were either scaled back or entirely missing at launch. This led to widespread disappointment among fans who felt misled by the marketing and frustrated by the lack of new, substantial content. The introduction of controversial monetization system, including the removal of loot boxes in favor of a battle pass and higher prices for in-game items, further fueled the backlash. Technical problems and server issues at launch also contributed to the negative reception. The failure to deliver on these promises further damaged Blizzard's reputation and contributed to the overall negative perception of Overwatch 2. In 2023, Blizzard faced significant challenges in China after failing to renew its licensing agreements with NetEase, its long-term partner in the region. This breakdown resulted in the suspension of Blizzard's popular games such as World of Warcraft and Overwatch in the Chinese market. The failure to reach a deal not only disrupted service for millions of players, but also represented a major setback for Blizzard's business operations and revenue in China. The situation highlighted ongoing issues in Blizzard's international partnerships and further contributed to the company's recent struggles. Microsoft acquired Activision Blizzard for roughly $68.7 billion in 2023. The agreement took 20 months of battles with regulators in the UK and US, but Microsoft was successful after defeating the Federal Trade Commission in US federal court and restructuring the deal to appease the Competition and Markets Authority in the UK. For anyone interested in learning more about Blizzard's history, I discovered that a book on the subject is coming out later this year. I'm not affiliated with the author in any way, but I wanted to share this for those who might be interested in diving deeper. I think we'll have to give it to Bobby. He succeeded in making sure his employees are deeply depressed, fearful, lacking fun doing their job, being pressured, assaulted, underpaid, laid off, demotivated. It's no wonder why Blizzard cannot make another game on the level they used to 20 years ago, and you certainly can't blame the employees.
You know, we're led to believe a lot of the time that wanting money is a bad thing, and people blur the lines between wanting to do better for yourself and your family and that type of greed, and the greed of harming or abusing other people, and money is the medium through that. So one, in my mind, is a positive greed, in that you want to do better for yourself and you want to do better for your family. In my mind, there's nothing wrong with that. The other type of greed, obviously, is not good. It's a negative greed, where you're harming other people to become wealthy. And you don't have to do that. You know, if you just understand the function of money, firstly, and respect it, you'll realize that money isn't the root of all evil. It's greed that's the root of all evil, in a negative sense, when you're harming other people. Sure. Money has a function, and there's a positive greed. So again, imagine your life or the world without money in it. Everything that you consume, everything that you experience these days is a function of the monetary system that's built up over hundreds of years. And we've come from the barter economy to be where we are today. Without it, society literally would not function. So understand it and respect it. That's the first thing. And understand the difference between positive and negative greed.
Even now, as part of Microsoft, Blizzard Entertainment continues its awful monetization practices and schemes, and even further downgrades with introducing the 3-day early access to World of Warcraft, a multiplayer-based game where an early access will put a significant advantage for those who paid for it. Everyone who has ever played World of Warcraft knows how significant 3 days are to any character progression and the unfairness that would bring out. With this maneuver, Blizzard officially not only confirms but promotes the pay-to-win scheme and promotes further downgrading the movement towards immoral practices focused on greed and maximum profit as the main goal. Now I hope you're more aware of what happened with Blizzard Entertainment, the good, the bad, and the ugly. To conclude on a good note, Blizzard used to be called the company that never released a bad game. I want to thank all the hardworking people who made those games an outstanding reality, wherever you are at the moment. I want to especially thank the art, cinematic, and music people whose work is no short of phenomenal. Without them, the magic of Blizzard games wouldn't be the same. Blizzard used to have the golden standard in PC gaming, but lost it throughout the years. But what the company didn't lose is the exceptional work of creating the worlds with all the necessary and essential attributes which bring life onto the product. I want to thank all the programmers for the high quality engines they produced in all their games. The unit's reactions in Blizzard games, their response is rapid, fast, and utterly smooth. Very few games can come close to that level of perfection. Addressing devs and our team because your work is what made Blizzard Entertainment's reputation reach its peak, not the corporates who leech off of you later on. Unfortunately, people in charge of making the decisions through the corporate ladder managed to ruin the beautiful achievements in order to profit through your talent and hard work. You managed to enrich the lives of tens of millions of people around the globe. I can only imagine how tough it might have been at times. As in the yin-yang symbol, there is no good without evil and evil without good. It is unfortunate that the evil took over the company so early, as I believe there was much more potential and beautiful worlds that could have been manifested by old Blizzard's teams, but it is what it is. As for me, Blizzard Entertainment is an undead, forsaken, used of what's left of it for profit, and has been for many years now. I tell myself to be grateful for that it happened, then sad because it's over. And I did this video as someone who used to be a fan in memoriam for all those who once loved this company and the games it published. Thank you.